After waiting for about 2 weeks, finally Yunli's kit got some changes just yesterday. After reading through it, it turns out she gets nerfed, meaning she performs really well before. But how bad is the nerf? Is she a mid unit now? Is she still worth your stellar jades? In this video I will be explaining her changes that include her kits and Eidolons. I also put some of her possible builds since it's V3 already. And disclaimer, I'm not the best guide maker, so feel free to correct me in the comments. And let's start! Yunli is a 5-star physical destruction character whose kit revolves around counterattacks. It is not wrong to say that she is a limited and upgraded version of Clara's. The only difference is she is capable of doing blast type of follow-up attacks anytime she is attacked, and her ultimate that can be stacked up to 2 times. Her unique selling point is also to have a parry mechanism that can be activated by pressing her ultimate at the right time, whenever the enemy's turn arrives and is about to attack her. By doing so, she will unleash a powerful sword slash called the Intuit Call. But worry not, after activating her ultimate and it turns out none of the enemy attack you, she will immediately launch a weaker version of Intuit Call, called the Intuit Slash, or I often say it a counter slash. Previously, her A2 lets her generate additional of 15 energy every time she is attacked by enemies. Now it becomes every time one Intuit Slash or counter slash is used, the next counter slash will be a counter call. If you noticed, this is how her kit is supposed to be even before the changes. The only difference is that her new A2 description now was previously located in her old ultimate, so it is safe to say that it's just rewarding. And fret not, her old A2 that helps her to gain energy upon being attacked by enemy is not completely gone. Instead, it is now in her new talent. Her new talent is basically the same as before, enemy attacks and she counters it, and it also has the same multiplier, but with additional 15 energy now. And now there's also a change to her ultimate, which is one of the most important skills to her kit and where the fun in Yunli's playstyle is located. Since it has a very dense text and kind of long description, and assuming you guys that watch this video already know how she works, it has the same meaning as before. The only difference is her multiplier. Her new multiplier for both the Intuit Slash and Intuit Call is lowered, as well as her 6 additional slashes. These changes are the reason behind her nerfs. She was probably too strong before, that's why Hoyo did this to her. But overall, I think it's not something big. She's still going to deal a huge number of damage, well, at least with the proper team. Aside from her ultimate, her technique also underwent minor change. Her technique now lasts for 20 seconds instead for 15 seconds. And that's her overall changes, at least for E0 and S0. Now let's talk about her Eidolon changes. These Eidolon changes might be important to some of you that want to invest heavily in Yunli. Previously, her E2 is not that worth it to begin with. It was only increased her crit rate by 18%. Thanks to the recent changes, it is now removed, and now, every time she deals counterattack to enemy, her damage will ignore 20% of enemy's defense. If you have noticed again, her E2 now is her old 4th Eidolon. But what about her 4th one now? Well, every time she performs Intuit Call or Slash, Yunli's effect resist will increase by 50% for one turn. Now moving on to her last Eidolon. Her old E6 let her to immediately perform Intuit Call regardless of the enemy attack her or not when she casts her ultimate right before their turn. And the block effects won't be dispelled right away and will remain until her next turn starts. Now she won't be having her ultimate effects last longer, instead she will gain an increase in crit rate and physical resistance penetration by 15 and 20% respectively when she performs Intuit Call or Slash. The rest remain the same. So since this is V3 changes and assuming that her Eidolon will remain the same until official release, if you're really interested in getting her Eidolon, I think her best one is probably her E1 or even her E6. But to get her last Eidolon is somehow unrealistic for a low spender and is possible for whalers only. So for now I think her E1 or E2 is still the best and realistic choice. Normally her additional physical slashes only deals damage 6 times, but with her E1, it can deal damage 3 more times, or equal to an additional of 180% multiplier, which is nice, especially in single target scenario. So which one is better, pulling for her first Eidolon or her signature LightCone? We just discussed earlier that her E1 is one of the best Eidolon that she has. Her signature LC is greatly increase the wearer's odds of being attacked and her crit damage by 36%. After the wearer use ultimate, they will gain one stack that increase their follow-up attack damage by 36% and can be stacked up to 2 times. So 72% follow-up attack damage boost is really great. If we compare her S1 and E1 damage-wise, the difference is around 27%, which is huge. This is probably due to her E1 grants her that additional 3 slashes. That's why her E1 S0 is better in damage. However, what her LC offers that her E1 doesn't is increase in her taunt value. There are times when YUNLI is present but still the enemy won't hit her, but with her LC, it greatly increases her chance to be attacked by enemies. And also don't forget that the chance of winning her LC is higher, and even losing to some standard banner LCs still might have value as other characters can still use it. But aside from any of that, if you really care about damage, then E1 is more worth it than S1. When it comes to YUNLI's best relic, the wind soaring is going to be her best choice. The wearer gains additional attack, and every time they deal follow-up damage, they will get their ultimate damage increased by 36%. This is because YUNLI's parry, or should I say, Intuit Slash and Call, is also considered as ultimate damage, even though they are a follow-up attack type. So YUNLI can consistently trigger this relic's passive since her main damage is counter-attacks or follow-ups. Other than this 4-piece, you can also use 4-set Champion of Streetwise Boxing, in case you already have a great substat before and don't want to farm for another relic. Their difference in terms of damage is only around 3.7%. The other evidence why Wind Soaring is her best relic is if you have Firefly, farming for this relic is more efficient since both of these relics are located in the same cavern. Aside from those two, you can also combine 2 sets like Attack with Physical, or maybe 2 Ash Blazing with Attack, or even 2 Ash Blazing together with Guard of Wuthering Snow to reduce her damage taken. For her planar, I think there are 2 valid options for her. The first one is by using the ultimate planar for follow-up units, which is Salsoto. It has 8% additional crit rate, which is great for YUNLI. Aside from that, it also increases her follow-up and ultimate damage by 15%. The second one is the new set, the Duran set. The wearer must perform follow-up attacks several times to get the best out of this passive, which YUNLI can easily do that. After performing 5 follow-ups, their follow-up attack damage will increase by 25%, and YUNLI can get 25% extra crit damage also. You can choose whichever you want, as long as they have great stats. So, for her stats, it's best to use crit rate in her body piece to help her perform consistent damage, and then attack on the boots since she doesn't need her own turn to arrive to deal damage and is using a counter attacks. Physical is obviously for the orb and attack for her rope. Now let us see what are her best light cone. YUNLI's best 5-star LC is obviously her own signature light cone. It increases her odds of being attacked, gains 36% crit damage, as well as increasing her follow-up damage by 72%. The other one is obviously on the Fall of the Aeon. This is the best choice aside from her LC since you can get it for free up to its maximum refinement. You can also use Clara's LC if you have one. Blade's LC is surprisingly a valid option too since it wants the wearers to be attacked, and it has a nice crit rate stat as well. As for other 5-star LCs like Dale's or Julius is no good except for stat stick only. YUNLI is not going to play around break mechanism, so Firefly's LC is a big no for her. And here's the damage comparison between the 5-star valid LCs for YUNLI. As for 4-star LCs, actually there are plenty of options too, but not the best ones. LCs like Most Welcome You and Wolf Walk Time may work in some cases, but I think Under the Blue Sky is better, since she benefits from both attack and crit. Secret Vow is always good, but it's going to be difficult to get additional damage boosts, but I think it's still better than nothing. So yeah, I guess the best 4-star LC is either Secret Vow or Under the Blue Sky for her. And now let us see which characters that can work well with YUNLI. There are plenty of characters that can synergize with YUNLI. You can pair her with 2 Harmony and 1 Sustain to form a hyper carry team. For example with Robin, Tingyun, and Huohuo. Robin will benefit from Yunli's frequent attack since Yunli is going to perform more follow-up counter-attacks to generate more energy for Robin. Tingyun is, as usual, to provide attack buffs, as well as to let Yunli's ultimate reveal quickly since it's stackable. It's not that she's having energy issue, but still, she can benefit from Tingyun's ult, right? The last slot will be the sustain. Huohuo can be replaced with any other healers. But I think using a preservation unit, for example like Aventurine, may or may not work since they usually have a high aggro and enemies might attack them instead of Yunli. But it's still worth a try. You can also try to pair her with a sub DPS that can still have a good synergy with her, such as replacing Tingyun with Topaz for MOC, or maybe with Jade for Pure Fiction. To make it fun, a team comp with dual counter attacks sounds like a valid option too. Rather than arguing which one has a better kit, why don't we gather the strongest counter attacker in history together with today's strongest counter attacker? This team might work in Pure Fiction. Speaking of Pure Fiction, for any of you that seek more fun in playing with Yunli, there's a possibility that forming a team with only 2 members that include her and 1 sustain can work. For example, using Huohuo or Luocha are both enough to keep Yunli alive during the battle. Worrying about Yunli's health is no more since she can also have a self-heal from her skill to help her alive whenever her turn starts. So in the end, is she going to be worth it to pull for, and should you pull for her? The answer depends on your account and who you are. If you are a low spender or even a free-to-play player, you might want to check your characters again. Yunli is a physical character in which most players will use her in permanent content that requires a physical unit to clear the stage more effectively. But if you already have many characters from that element, let's say Argenti, Boot Heal, a well-built Clara, or even with several of her Eidolons and signature, I think her priority is very low for your account. Especially if you don't really attracted to her design or maybe lore and maybe even her playstyle. Of course, Yunli is a very good character or maybe even better than Clara, but to have another new physical attribute character that has no new gimmick that can even change the whole game is not necessary. Especially if you are really tight in Stellar Jades right now. The case is going to be different if you really need a physical element unit. For example, you skip both Argenti and Boot Heal for some reasons, that's where Yunli is a perfect choice for your account condition. But that's from a meta perspective. But this game always has 2 sides. If you don't care about meta and really find her playstyle is interesting, suit yourself. So I guess that's all from Yunli's changes along with her possible builds that suit her. If there is any missing information about her changes and builds, you can add them in the comment section. And feel free to state your future teams with Yunli as well since I'm curious to know. If you enjoyed this video, please help support this channel by leaving a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. Soon I will be back with Xiaochu's changes along with his builds. Have a nice day and I will see you humans in the next video.